Hey, Palm Beach Chapter Moms. We are welcoming you to episode 1, can you believe it, of the Jack and Jill Palm Beach Chapter Programming Podcast. That's a mouthful of peas, we know, but we're super excited to bring to your listening space the concept of a monthly podcast. This podcast will cover everything you need to know about our monthly calendar, and it will include many extras that we will research and talk about every month. So it's like bonus talk. I don't know what we're going to call it, but we'll think of something. So I'm Charlotte.
And I am your other program director, Dee Josette.
And so we would just like to say hi and that we're so excited about this, our first podcast. So this is near and dear to my heart. You all know that I'm a media specialist and I do this stuff. So to be able to bring this to the chapter is just a really great thing. We're in a great place and we want to begin to discuss our programming, which is the heart of our chapter, and Jack and Jill chapters all across the United States of America. We're in this organization pretty much because of our kids, our children, and each month we will sit down and bring the information that you as busy moms need to know right to your listening space. So all you have to do is press the play button. So let's get started.
Yeah, and you know what I like about this, PD Charlotte? I like the fact that you just mentioned it. You said busy mothers, right? We know that everybody is super busy. Everybody's, zooming from place to place. I've heard CP Jenny talk about the child Uber, right? So she's constantly in the car, just like many of us. So now you guys can kind of just press play and get an update of what's going on in programming. But so I wanted to start with, what is programming? And what are we here for, really? So like many of you guys know, programming. So as the program directors, we're charged with making sure that the chapter-wide activities and the grade group activities meet the high standards of excellence, which a chapter has sought since the inception, and also, that meets the national standards. So in our monthly programming committee, we will do the work month after month to ensure that we have stellar activities that align with the aims and thrusts of Jack and Jill of America, Inc.
That's how we do it.
Yep. So, but before we start, we definitely want to stop and give a shout out to our new grade group chairs, who are the members and they make up the programming committee. So we have, we want you guys to help us give a podcast applause. How does that sound?
It sounds like that.
That's how it sounds. Okay. So give us a podcast applause to grade group 1, Sugar Palms. The chairs are Moms Tiffany McCalla and Mom Whitney.
Woohoo!
Grade group 2 for the Teddy Bear Palms, we have Moms Winnie and Mom Janelle.
Hey!
And then we have for grade group 3, the Windmill Palms, Moms Ashley and Renee.
Woot!
And grade group 4 for the Majestic Palms, Moms Chanel and Cassandra.
All right.
And then, drum roll. Working with the teens, the Royal Palms, we have LTS LaShonda.
Hey.
And teen advisors, Moms Carlene, Sherry, Jennifer, and Vernique.
Yeah.
So big thank you to these moms who have agreed to be grade group chairs.
Big jobs.
Yes. And to be a part of this program committee. We're really excited to work with the mothers on this committee. This year, we have been, behind the scenes already speaking with them. And I know that you've probably already heard from them in terms of some things they wanted you guys to gather. So we're all in this together.
Right, exactly.
Yep, all in it together. They will need everybody's help and support in planning these amazing programs for our children, completing the requested documents. I know that we've been asking for a lot, and it's we're just getting started, but
Yeah.
it's important, right? So we will need everybody's help in completing documents in a timely manner and adhering to deadlines, because there's a lot of deadlines here in Jack and Jill.
Right, right. And they're given to us by our national organization. They're given to us by our chapter president, our vice president. They're given to you all by us, your PDs. So, that's what we do, right? Mm-hmm. We meet deadlines. We keep pushing until we do it.
Mm-hmm. But know this: every time there's a deadline that we give you, or CP, VP, or PDs, that's a lot of
right.
Whatever deadlines we pass down, it's definitely for a reason. So we know that having things planned in a timely manner makes or manner, right, makes things easier for all of us.
Right.
So I think Charlotte, do you want to talk about your acronym, ASP?
Yeah, absolutely. So, as we begin this programming year, we promise that we will try to make things as easy and efficient as possible for you. And one of the things that we've kind of been trying to drill into our grade group chairs is that we have certain things that are required for you to do every time you have a grade group activity. And so we developed this ASP acronym. And though that acronym, the A represents the attendance tracker, the S represents the survey, and the P represents the photos. So we need to know who was there, whether they enjoyed being there, and we need photos of them being there. And it's important for them also. We may not have been doing this over the years, but just to make sure that we meet that 5-star and that we check off all the boxes on there, we need their physical signature, So we will be putting in the programming folder, maybe a grade group sign-in sheet or whatever. Even if they're just learning to write, it's okay to capture their signature to account that they were actually there. So if you have not received the links to the certain documents as of yet, we are going to show you at the retreat how to go into the Google Drive and get what you need and find what you need to be productive. So one of the things that I want to say is on that P of the ASP acronym, if you can't take photos, assign a mom. If you have a child who wants to be a photographer of the day, right? Let them snap away, but you must upload the pictures after the event, because they don't do us any good if they just live on your phone like most of our photos do, right? So
I think I have I can't even count.
Right?
Thousands, right?
Yeah, we have lots of photos
get
on
them
our
phone
and into our lives, right. So, okay, enough about that. Let's pivot. So, I want to give a shout out to all the grade groups who have completed their grade group activity planning sheet. Wow, amazing. Some of you can say done, checked off, completed. Maybe some of you have not yet reached that point, but we trust that you'll get there, right? Yes. Once completed, we will look at your grade group activity planning sheets, and we will review the activities there to make sure that it aligns with our national requirements and that it represents an if not for Jack and Jill activity, and that it's reasonably priced. So make sure that you put a proposed budget on there and that it is inclusive to all of our children. And we just want to finally say about that to remember that all of these sheets are due to be completed by the time we get in that retreat room at the Marriott Singer Island on August 14th. And so we're very close, we're there. And so our retreat is on Sunday, like seven at the recording of this podcast is 7 days away.
Yeah, gosh, can you believe it?
Right.
We're almost midway through August.
Right, right.
Oh,
amazing.
Gosh. So I think that's what we can talk about next, right? So at the retreat. So at the retreat, the day of, your grade group chairs will be sharing out on the activities that you have planned. So remember, we said that when there's a deadline, there's a reason. See? So that's why we asked for the sheets to be completed before the retreat, because your grade group chairs will then have to report out on those activities to the rest of the membership. Um, we will have the chance to interact and discuss ways to make your activities more robust if needed. We have amazing activities,
Amazing.
so great ones, right?
Right.
So over the 2 years that I've been here, I've seen a lot of really great activities. So we just want to make sure that these activities are being captured fully, that we are writing things up clearly, they're being documented appropriately, so that we can make sure that it shows clearly that we are meeting national standards.
Right. And so, guys, we've been locked down for 2 years with COVID, and some of our new moms have never really experienced the face to face retreat. So we are all ecstatic that we will be back in person for this very important kickoff to the 2022-2023 programming year. At this point, we should have already RSVP'd, and we should be, if you're going to spend the night, looking at what we're going to wear, pack your little suitcases, because the first night, which is August, I'm saying October, goodness, but August the 13th, and that's a very special day in my world because that's my birthday.
Happy birthday to
Happy
you.
birthday. Happy birthday. So this year, it's going to be a fun night that's being planned for the moms to bond and hang out and have a great time together.
And then the next day, August 14th, we will be down to chapter business. So the morning belongs to the president and VP to talk about their business, and then the afternoon will be passed over to programming for us to fulfill our program planning for the entire year. So when we leave this retreat, your calendar will be planned out for your children and Jack and Jill, which we know is super important since, again, like we said before, we're very aware that everybody has busy lives and busy schedules. So the fact that we will be able to leave our retreat with a fully planned calendar is beyond amazing.
Right. And it's important for us because right after that retreat, we're working on the programming handbook that has to be turned in on November 1st. Yes. Yeah. So deadlines are important.
Yeah, so everything kind of feeds into each other. Right. And having our deadlines and having these things planned will definitely help us in balancing out our lives, the busy lives that we have, just keeping everything organized and in place.
Right. Right.
But speaking of balancing, again, I think this is a good part to kind of pivot into we still didn't think of a name of it for it, right? Like our bonus discussion.
Right. So how about we do this? How about our listeners out there? Why don't you propose a name to us? And, you can email it to us. Let us know that you've listened to the podcast because this is towards the end. So hopefully you listen to the end. If you have an idea for what we can name our bonus part where we will have we discuss topics that are important to moms and our children. Sometimes we may have guest speakers. Send us a name. What do you think we should call this part of our podcast? So we look forward to hearing your answers.
Yes. So this bonus part of our podcast, we are going to be discussing mental load. So I'm wondering how many people have heard of this term mental load. I know that in my mind for a very long time, I had this concept of, gosh, I have help doing things, but it does seem like I have a lot of other things kind of pressing in on me. And that, my friends, is the mental load. So not the physical things that you have to do on your to-do list, but just the mere act of having to remember all of this stuff. So remembering who has practice on Tuesdays and Thursdays, who has practice on Wednesdays and Fridays, what you're doing with your church group, what you're doing with your Jack and Jill group, right?
Yeah.
So absolutely. Mothers meetings, grade group meetings, chapter-wide meetings, holiday parties, just everything. So keeping a running tab of all of that stuff that you have to do, and mind you, that's your work, your at-home stuff. Then you have the work stuff. So keeping a tally of all of that stuff, just your mental checklist, that's the mental load.
Wow. And I didn't know that I was going through a mental load, but I don't know whether it's a thing that you go through or not, but I feel the mental load, like trying to remember meetings at work, meetings for Jack and Jill. So, do they have solutions for how you kind of decrease your mental load?
Yes. So, one thing that we can do to decrease our mental load is we can delegate.
Oh, that's a good one. I have a problem with delegating.
Yes, right. Sometimes it's hard to let things go. We want the help, but it is hard sometimes, right?
Absolutely.
But we can delegate. So not only, I think what happens is we delegate physical tasks, but we don't delegate the mental task because we're still the holder of the information, right?
Wow.
So we're still the ones telling people. So what we can do is if you have a personal assistant, a virtual assistant, or even like friends, family, partners, we can ask them to help us with things, but not just doing things, but making sure that they're done, and they can kind of take the mental burden from us.
Right.
So if you're in charge of, cleaning the kitchen, like that's your task without, PD Charlotte, for example, having to come back and check to see that it's done.
Right.
So now the task is taken care of, but also your mental load is reduced because you don't have to ask about it anymore. So that's the important piece in delegating. So we have to first start the conversation. So letting people know that when you're asking them to do something, it does require the full Monty, right? So taking on the full Monty of it. And another thing that we can do to offset this mental load is just making sure that we put in our calendars time for self-care.
I was going to ask you, like the calendar, just having things written down and checking them off, does that help to decrease the mental load?
That does.
Okay.
That does, because in your mind, you constantly have this running list of things that you might need to do. And getting it out of your mind and onto paper or a calendar can definitely decrease the mental load.
Yeah, and I just wonder how many people out there. I know I like to write things down, but a lot of people don't. And so maybe that's a good thing to get into those checklists and planners and just the cute little tablets that are out there to kind of write it down.
Yes, yep, write it down, get it out of your head and onto the paper. So just some quick tips. Again, if anybody wants to hear more about any of the topics that we're talking about, just drop us a line, a text message, an email, and we can always follow up with a different conversation about it.
And that's it for this week. We thank you for joining us for the Palm Beach Chapter Programming Podcast. See you next time.
Bye.